Morning. This is the Javelina Trail in Saguaro National Park. Park named after the saguaro cactus, that big tree-like thing that we only have in the distance here. I'm going to break here to talk some anime. Innocence is the second futuristic sci-fi feature film based on Masamune Shirow's Ghost in the Shell manga. It's again directed by the respected Mamoru Oshii as a sequel to his 1995 movie. This time Oshii wrote the screenplay too. The movie is spectacularly gorgeous and intellectually demanding. By 2032, it's become possible to augment humans with cybernetic prosthetics, artificial eyes, arms, legs, just about anything, and the replacements are better than the original. Man's brain has also been directly linked into the global information network. At the same time, humanoid robots, imitations of life operated by artificially intelligent programs, but without a ghost or a soul, have become commonplace. The line between man and machine is blurring. But a haywire gynoid sex robot kills its owner, then two policemen, and then itself. It's not the first of that sexoroid model to go berserk like that. It's the new top-of-the-line model, the Hathaway, and it's a highly desirable as a sex toy and a very high-profit item for the Locust Soulless Corporation that makes them. That also means it's the very wealthy and high-profile customers who are getting killed. Because that may mean it's an act of cyber terrorism or political assassination, the investigation is handled as Section 9, an elite police force within the government for special crimes. They're armed with advanced cybernetics, sophisticated weapons, and highly advanced intelligence gathering equipment, and they're equally at home in cyberspace and physical combat. Bato is a Section 9 agent, a heavily armored cyborg. He's ex-military. He has no family except for the recent addition of a basset hound. Togusa is Section 9's most recent recruit and Bato's new partner. He's an ex-cop, and unlike his partner in many ways, he doesn't have any prosthetic hardware, and he has a normal family, a wife, a daughter, and a mortgage. Together, Bato and Togusa follow the lead, starting with a visit to the forensics lab for a briefing on the berserk robot. There don't seem to be any defects as far as the manufacturer is concerned, so it's off to see the manufacturer's local representative. But he turns up rather gruesomely murdered, disemboweled, with his organs removed and scattered about. Togusa rules out suicide. But they must be doing something right, because after work, Bato discovers that work has followed him home and into the grocery store. Plot, however, really isn't what Innocence is about, and it would be easy to lose track of it in all the razzle-dazzle. After following leads from the murdered company executive to some yakuza, Bato and Togusa head off to the Locust Soulless headquarters in the north. After dropping in on an old hacker buddy of Bato, the team is forced to admit that they don't have any hard evidence against the robot's manufacturer. Bato decides to kick in the door and raid the secret offshore underwater gynoid factory anyway. It was time for a little action and some ass-kicking, whether the plot had motivated it or not. The story will eventually reveal why some gynoids are going berserk, but it's almost as an afterthought for anyone still paying attention. The narrative flow is weak and largely irrelevant. This isn't a whodunit mystery. In the time since the first Ghost in the Shell movie, Production IG has also made a TV series based on the same manga. Those standalone complex stories involve the same characters and organization, but they have a separate continuity from Oshii's movies. To appreciate this movie, you really need to have seen the first Ghost in the Shell movie. You may recall from that movie that Major Kusanagi was a Section 9 team leader. Even without making an appearance in Innocence, the missing Major Kusanagi looms as a presence in Bato's life and in Section 9. A few minor spoilers here. You may recall from the first movie that only Bato knows that the Major merged her ghost into the vast information network. Several characters mention her as missing or otherwise refer to her. Bato obviously misses his former partner and friend, and there's a reference to 2501, the project ID from the first movie that was established as Bato's private recognition code with the Major. It probably won't surprise you to learn that the now disembodied Major will drop in on this story too. Kusanagi will download a part of herself into one of the empty gynoid shells to assist Bato. They automatically fall into their old familiar relationship. Bato drapes his coat over the Major's naked artificial body, just as he did in the first movie.
There's an impossible love story hidden here, one pure and platonic. He's an artificial body and she's a disembodied intelligence. When they say goodbye again, just as in the first movie, it's shot with a deep depth of field and both characters looking in different directions, not at each other. When the Major's ghost withdraws, the robot easily crumples like a marionette whose strings are cut, as predicted by that poem on the mausoleum wall. Even in the first movie, the Major had largely divorced her sense of self from her body, which she said was on loan from Section 9, and she treated it with reckless abandon.
Two characters in Innocence will quote Buddha that one should walk alone, committing few sins and with few wishes, like an elephant in a forest. It appears the Major has achieved enlightenment. Innocence is a combination of philosophical musings, music, and images that return to Shiro and Oshii's familiar themes about the true nature of reality and what it means to be human.
公安休暇のトムさ。こっちの怖そうな旦那は。
ダブルオーバックでこの子を潰した人ね。
3人殺した。うち2人は警官だ。
撃たれる前に自殺しようとしていた。
Director Mamoru Oshii hasn't set out to entertain us so much as to challenge us. The plot isn't complicated, but it's so fragmented you'll have to pay close attention to keep track of it. Oshii seems to want us to dig for his meaning, peppering his dialogue with familiar and obscure references. No doubt everyone in the future knows all these quotations because their networked e-brains can so easily access the complete library of human thought. The rest of us need Google.
The quote at the start of the film is from a French novel, and the movie's rogue gynoid model name, the Hadalay, is taken from the name of an android character created in that novel. The robotics company, Locus Solus, is itself a reference to another French novel, featuring an estate full of weird and wonderful mechanical devices. When Bato visits his hacker buddy Kim, he finds Kim's estate a similar wonderland of mechanical marvels, much like Sebastian's apartment in Blade Runner, but on a much larger scale. Whenever we see the gynoid model robots, they're shown as shells without the final humanizing skin. These intentionally resemble the dolls of artist Hans Bellmer, and at one point Bato even discovers a copy of Bellmer's photos on a bookshelf. The movie will also quote Buddha, Confucius, the Bible, Milton, Descartes, Nietzsche, Isaac Asimov, and the Brothers Grimm. Twice we see a very old poem in writing about marionettes who crumble once their strings are cut. Innocence uses the entire palette of animation to achieve the atmosphere it wants. The images are dazzling. The art is fantastic, incredible in its detail. Every reflection and nuanced shadow is shown. Some of it is so precise that it looks 3D when it's actually hand-drawn. The character designs are splendidly mature, and each character has been given distinctive mannerisms and is animated with complex and subtle gestures. There are dozens of little touches, almost extraneous extra effort in the animation to enhance the verisimilitude. Even Bato's Basset Hound, a direct take on Oshii's own pet, Gabriel, gets some incredibly realistic movement. This is a visual tour de force second to none. As with the first film, we have lots of superimposed computer displays. Near the end, there's some hacking in cyberspace. Oshii said he always wanted to display a battle with just indicators, and here he gives it a try, rather than attempting to anthropomorphize the cyberspace action with avatars. It's a little subtle keeping track of the colors on these rings. Still, he falls back on the old idea of robots talking to each other to help us know who's winning. Really, acoustics has to be an inefficient and unreliable way for AIs to swap data. The music is by Oshii's frequent collaborator, Kenji Kawai. He's continued with the traditional Japanese motifs he used in the first movie. They've also opted for doing a lot of scenes without any background music at all. Kawai consistently puts together a soundtrack that enhances the visuals, and while it's memorable, there's nothing here that you're going to start humming on the way home. I give Ghost in the Shell 2, Innocence, 4.5 stars. It's a breathtakingly beautiful anime, rich in detail, and has multiple layers of meaning to explore. It contemplates several really interesting ideas. What's missing is a little bit of integration. There's both dazzling eye candy and intellectual red meat here, but neither has been tied closely to a bread-and-butter cohesive story. It's less a movie to be watched and enjoyed than a movie to be studied. Oshii may be a little too smart for his audience, or at least for me, and I think here his intellect has outstripped his storytelling. DreamWorks' US DVD release has a subtitle commentary track by director Oshii and unit director Nishi Kubo. The talk is all about the animation and not about the plot or imagery. The one story-related tidbit I did take away from this concerned a scene at the festival where the floats, puppets, robots, and masks from the parade are burned. Apparently the Skywalker sound engineers thought this scene was a mob of Luddites destroying technology, but Jii explains that it's a traditional reverent disposal of the props from a festival.
At one point in Innocence, Bato utters the equivalent expression of fish gotta swim and birds gotta fly. Another character remarks that everyone cares about a wounded bird, but nobody mourns for a gutted fish. I think they're trying to draw a parallel between robots as fish and birds as humans. After thinking about that metaphor for a bit, I decided to go have chicken for dinner. Thanks for watching.